The house at the end of Mulberry Lane stood, a silent testament to decades past, its aged bones groaning under the weight of untold stories. Amelia, having recently stepped into the role of its reluctant custodian after her mother's death, felt the gravity of her new life as she pushed open the creaking door. The air inside was stale, heavy with dust and disuse, but beneath it all, there was something else, a whisper of the unknown that seemed to call her name. As days merged into weeks, Amelia found herself drawn to an exploration of the house, a need to connect with something beyond her understanding, driving her actions. It was on one such evening, with the shadows stretching long across the wooden floors, that her fingertips brushed against the unevenness of a floorboard in her bedroom. Curiosity piqued. She pried it open to reveal a hidden compartment, and within it, the Ouija board. The wood was old, the letters and numbers faded, but unmistakably clear were the initials carved into the corner, her mother's. The discovery sent a shiver down her spine, a mix of excitement and apprehension swirling within her. Yet the pull of the unknown, the possibility of connecting with her mother once more, overrode any sense of fear. That night, in the hushed stillness of her room, Amelia sat before the board, her fingers lightly touching the planchette. "Are you there?" She whispered into the darkness. The response was immediate, a force guiding the planchette with a certainty that left her breathless. Yes, the simplicity of the answer did little to calm the storm of emotions within her. Questions poured forth, each answered with a patience that belied the entity on the other end. It claimed to have known her mother, to have been close, but as the night wore on, a feeling of unease settled over Amelia. The room grew colder, the air denser, as if something had been invited in that now refused to leave. In the days that followed, Amelia's once quiet world became a cacophony of unexplained phenomena. Objects moved of their own accord, shadows flickered in the corners of her vision, and whispers echoed through the halls, chilling her to the bone. But it was one night, as she lay in the grip of a dreamless sleep, that the true terror made itself known. A pressure on her chest jolted her awake, an invisible weight that stifled her screams, leaving her helpless and gasping for air. When the dawn broke, painting the room in hues of gold and ochre, the weight lifted, leaving behind a fear that sunk deep into her bones. The realization that the entity she had contacted was not the benign spirit she had hoped for, but something far more malevolent, was a chilling revelation. It was a force that had pushed past the veil with intentions unknown, save for the undeniable truth that Amelia was its target. Her skepticism of the supernatural, once a steadfast part of her beliefs, crumbled in the face of undeniable proof. And so, driven by a need for answers and a desperation to end the haunting, Amelia found herself stepping into the hallowed quiet of the town's old library. It was there, among the musty tomes and flickering lights, she would meet Helen, a meeting that would alter the course of her journey and plunge her deeper into the shadows that lurked behind the veil. Amelia's need for answers drove her to the oldest part of the town library, where the shelves groaned under the weight of history and arcane knowledge. The air smelled of dust and old leather, a testament to the countless stories that lingered in the silence, waiting to be discovered. It was here, amidst the labyrinth of knowledge, that Amelia sought refuge from the haunting that had uprooted her life. As she wandered the aisles, her gaze fell upon an elderly woman poring over a large ancient tome. The librarian, Helen, with her short, curly gray hair and glasses perched precariously on her nose, appeared as much a part of the library as the books themselves. Taking a deep breath, Amelia approached, the words tumbling out in a rush of hope and desperation. She spoke of the Ouija board, the malevolent presence in her house, and the terror that had become her constant companion. Helen listened with a quiet intensity, her brown eyes reflecting a depth of understanding marred by concern. She closed the book before her with a gentle thud and beckoned Amelia to follow her to a secluded corner of the library. Surrounded by ancient texts on the occult, demonology, and esoteric rituals, Helen began to unravel the mystery that Amelia had unwittingly entangled herself with. Her knowledge of demonic entities and her insights into Amelia's discoveries painted a grim picture, but with it came a glimmer of hope, the possibility of banishment and peace. In the days that followed, Amelia and Helen delved into the lore of the occult, their search unearthing the hidden histories of Amelia's family and the dark secrets that bound the entity to her. Each revelation, each dark thread of history untangled, brought them closer to understanding the force that sought to claim Amelia. It was a dance with darkness, one that would lead them to a ritual of banishment, a beacon of light in the overwhelming shadow. The preparation for the confrontation was a testament to their determination. Amelia gathered her mother's personal effects, objects of sentimental and mystical significance, while Helen procured the ancient artifacts and texts needed to enhance the ritual's potency. Together, they created a sacred space within Amelia's home, a circle of protection marked with occult symbols and inscribed with ancient runes of power. As the night of the ritual approached, the house thrummed with an oppressive energy, a silent acknowledgement of the battle that was to come. Amelia felt the weight of her actions, the burden of her family's legacy, and the flickering flame of hope that Helen had kindled within her. They stood at the edge of darkness, ready to push back against the forces that sought to engulf Amelia's world. The air was charged with anticipation, the silent moments before the storm, as they began the ritual that would define Amelia's fate. Under the cloak of night, with the moon hanging heavy in a starless sky, Amelia and Helen stood within the circle of protection they had painstakingly drawn. The air within the house seemed to pulse with anticipation, every shadow deeper, every silence pregnant with the coming storm. Amelia's heart hammered in her chest, not just with fear, but with a fierce determination. Beside her, Helen's voice was calm and steady, guiding Amelia through the ancient incantations that filled the air with power. As they chanted, the presence in the house made itself known. A cold wind whipped through the room, extinguishing the candles and shrouding them in darkness. The entity, a force of malevolence and rage, fought against the bindings of the ritual, its shadows swirling menacingly around the edge of their protective circle. Amelia could feel its anger, its hunger, for it was not just any entity, but one tied to her bloodline, seeking to use her as a conduit to the corporeal world. The moment of revelation was a knife's edge, balancing between terror and empowerment. The entity, in a voice that was both Amelia's and wholly other, revealed its intention: to resurrect the dark past her mother had fought to bury. But Amelia, with Helen's guidance, stood her ground. She poured every ounce of her will into the ritual, channeling her love for her mother, her grief, her determination for a future free from this haunting. With a final, powerful incantation, Amelia thrust her mother's locket, the physical anchor for both her love and the entity's tether into their world, into the heart of the swirling darkness. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Light burst forth, a radiant force that repelled the shadows, severing the connection between the entity and the mortal plane. As quickly as the tempest had risen, it dissipated, leaving nothing but the faintest echo of whispers in its wake. In the aftermath, the house felt lighter, as if a great weight had been lifted from its foundations. Amelia and Helen, exhausted but victorious, shared a moment of quiet triumph. The dawn broke on a world that seemed a little brighter, a little kinder to Amelia. She knew the road ahead would be one of healing, of learning to live in the absence of the haunting that had consumed her life. But she also knew she wouldn't walk it alone. Helen had become more than a mentor. She was a friend, a companion in the darkness who had helped guide her back to the light. As the days turned to weeks and the memories of the haunting began to fade into the tapestry of her past, Amelia found a new purpose. The house, once a place of fear and shadows, became a home again, filled with the promise of new beginnings. And though she would never forget the nights of terror, of fighting for her soul against darkness unimaginable, Amelia emerged stronger, tempered by the ordeal. She had faced the echoes of her family's dark past and had won, securing not just her future, but peace for the mother she had lost. In the quiet moments, when the moon hung low and the world around her slept, Amelia could still feel the faintest touch of the unseen, a reminder of the thin veil between worlds. But it no longer held power over her. Instead, it served as a testament to her strength, to the resilience of the human spirit when faced with the abyss. Amelia's story, a tale of darkness confronted and overcome, of bonds forged in the crucible of fear, would linger in the whispers of the house, a beacon of hope for anyone who might one day find themselves walking in the shadows. Hashar, the Whispering Tarot, Part 1. The sun was high, casting long shadows that seemed to dance between the stalls of the crowded flea market. Lucy weaved through the bustling crowds, her hazel eyes scanning the eclectic collections displayed on tables and blankets spread across the ground. She wasn't looking for anything in particular, just something that might catch her eye, a hidden treasure amongst the forgotten relics. It was near the back of the market, hidden away behind a clutter of dusty antiques and aged books, that Lucy found it. A small, unassuming stall manned by an elderly woman, her hair a wiry crown of silver, eyes sharp and knowing. Amongst the bric-a-brac, a case of tarot cards whispered to Lucy. It wasn't audible, more a sensation, a pull at the edge of her consciousness that drew her hand towards the deck. "Ah, I see it calls to you," the old woman said, her voice a crackling whisper that seemed to blend with the sound of the cards. Lucy hesitated, then nodded, unable to deny the strange attraction. Her fingers brushed against the cards, and the whispering amplified like distant voices caught in a breeze. It felt intimate, haunting, and deeply personal. The exchange was swift. Lucy couldn't explain why she needed the tarot cards, only that she felt incomplete walking away without them. As she left the flea market, the deck secure in her bag, the first tendrils of unease began to curl around her heart. Back at her dorm, Lucy's excitement was palpable. Max and Eliza watched with a mix of skepticism and curiosity as she carefully unwrapped the tarot deck. The cards were exquisite, each illustration more intricate than the last, whispering secrets that only Lucy seemed to hear. "Let's see if they work," Eliza said, her enthusiasm sparking a challenge in the air. Max, ever the skeptic, raised an eyebrow but nodded in agreement. "All right, let's see what fate has in store for me." Lucy shuffled the deck, the cards sliding smoothly between her fingers as if eager to reveal their secrets. She laid out 3 cards before Max, her voice steady as she interpreted the images. A journey, a challenge, and an unexpected outcome. Max laughed it off initially, but as they left the dorm to grab dinner, a call from his advisor confirmed an unexpected opportunity for a research trip abroad, a journey that would indeed pose challenges and unforeseen results. The accuracy of the reading left them all a bit unsettled, the amusement fading into a quiet contemplation. It was clear these weren't ordinary cards. They had power, an undeniable presence that lingered in the room long after the reading. That night, as Lucy studied in the library with Max, she felt it again. The whispering. This time, it wasn't coming from the tarot cards tucked safely in her bag, but from the shadows themselves. They seemed denser, almost palpable, moving just at the edge of her vision. When she turned to look, they dispersed like mist, leaving her to question if she'd seen anything at all. Max noticed her distraction. "Everything okay?" "Yeah, just thought I saw something," Lucy replied, trying to shake off the feeling. But the unease remained, a persistent whisper at the back of her mind, hinting at truths not yet revealed and destinies yet to unfold. The shadows watched and waited, guardians of secrets that Lucy was only beginning to unravel. The Whispering Tarot, Part 2. The days following the accurate prediction had been a whirlwind for Lucy. Word had spread about the haunting precision of her tarot readings, and her dorm room had become something of a local oracle's den. It was exhilarating, yet with each spread she laid down, the more drained she felt, as if the cards were leeching her very essence with every truth they unveiled. It was during a late-night session with Eliza, the cards spread out between them like stars in a dark sky, that Lucy first voiced her concerns. "I feel like they're changing me, Eliza," Lucy confessed, her hands hovering hesitantly over the whispering deck. "Every time I use them, it's like parts of me are being faded out." Eliza, her green eyes reflecting the dim light, watched Lucy with growing concern. "Maybe you need a break," she suggested, though they both knew it wasn't that simple. The next morning, determined to uncover the origins of the tarot cards and possibly find a solution to her weakening condition, Lucy and Eliza visited an ancient bookstore known for its occult collection. The shop was a labyrinth of towering bookshelves, filled with tomes on every mystical subject imaginable. Deep within a particularly neglected section, they found it. A leather-bound volume containing a passage on the creation of tarot decks by a shadowy cabal of warlocks seeking to feed a malevolent entity. A chill ran down Lucy's spine as the pieces clicked together. Her tarot deck was no mere tool for divination. It was a conduit, siphoning her life to fuel something far darker. With this revelation, the shadowy whispers that had been mere background noise in Lucy's life grew into a cacophony of dread. The entity behind the tarot was waking up, growing stronger with every use of the cards. Eliza, seeing the toll this was taking on Lucy, insisted on grounding her with reality. "We'll figure this out, Lucy. You're not alone in this." But as if to punctuate the gravity of their situation, Max became an unwitting pawn in the supernatural drama unfolding around them. While crossing the campus after another night of studying, a sudden, inexplicable gust of wind knocked him off his feet, causing a minor yet alarming accident. Max, usually the embodiment of skepticism, couldn't find a logical explanation for what happened. The incident served as a stark warning. They were no longer dealing with mere predictions and fortunes. The shadows had grown bold, lashing out into the physical world. Gathered in Lucy's room, the trio confronted the dire reality. The tarot cards weren't just a doorway to knowledge. They were a beacon for something much more sinister. As Max nursed his bruised arm, the resolve in Lucy's eyes was unmistakable. The thrill of the occult had given way to a battle for control, for understanding, and for a way to sever the tie binding Lucy to the whispers in the dark. "We need to fight back," Lucy declared, her voice steady despite the uncertainty that lay ahead. The decision was made. They would delve deeper into the mysteries of the tarot and confront whatever entity lay beyond, for the sake of their sanity and safety. The game had changed, and there was no turning back. The Whispering Tarot, Part 3. Under the glow of the full moon, Lucy, Max, and Eliza gathered in a clearing deep within the woods that embraced the edges of their campus. The air was thick with anticipation and the slight chill that whispered between the trees. They had everything prepared, a circle of protection drawn in the dirt, candles flickering at each cardinal point, and the tarot cards laid out before Lucy in the center. This was their last stand, a confrontation born from desperation and the dire need to sever the umbilical cord feeding the malevolent entity. Lucy, her energy waning but resolve unwavering, explained the ritual they had painstakingly discovered among the cobwebs of the ancient bookstore. It was a risky gambit, requiring a sacrifice to break the connection. Fear trembled in the air, palpable and bitter as the trio exchanged glances. Max and Eliza, though fraught with worry, stood firmly by Lucy's side, a united front against the encroaching darkness. As Lucy began the incantations, the forest seemed to respond. Shadows danced at the edge of the circle, pressing against the barrier as if curious. The cards before Lucy began to whisper louder, their voices merging into a cacophony that seemed to pierce the very fabric of the night. Eliza held Lucy's hand tightly, providing an anchor to the tangible world, while Max vigilantly watched the circle's edge, his skepticism drowned by the undeniable reality of their situation. The ritual neared its climax with Lucy's voice rising above the din, her spirit pouring into the words that wove through the air like threads of light. She was ready to give herself to the ritual, to end the cycle of feeding this entity that had ensnared her. Just as the moment of sacrifice approached, a surge of energy pulsed through the clearing. The tarot cards ignited, flames consuming them from within, each card disintegrating into ashes that were carried off by the wind. The entity, starved and enraged, howled from the shadows, a sound of pure malevolence that clawed at the edges of sanity. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, silence fell. The entity's presence receded, a tide ebbing away, leaving behind a stunned but unharmed Lucy. The ritual concluded not with a sacrifice, but with liberation. The trio remained in the clearing as dawn began to paint the sky with hues of gold and pink, the weight of the night lifting with the arrival of light. Lucy, alive and freed from the tarot's grasp, looked between Max and Eliza, her heart brimming with gratitude. They had faced the unknown, braved the darkness, and emerged together, bound by a newfound strength. The Whispering Tarot cards were no more. The entity, starved of its power source, had been banished back to the shadows from whence it came. Lucy, Max, and Eliza, forever changed by their ordeal, knew that some doors once opened could never be truly closed. But for now, they had each other and the promise of a new day. As they left the clearing, the first light of dawn warming their faces, the world seemed to hold them in a gentle embrace. The shadows that once whispered threats now merely danced beneath the trees, harmless and fleeting. They had faced the abyss, armed with faith and friendship, and turned the tide. Eleanor had always felt out of place in the world, a sentiment that clung to her like a shadow. A violinist of modest renown, she cradled her aspirations close, yet always found them just beyond reach. When the letter arrived informing her of an inheritance left by a distant relative she scarcely knew, Eleanor viewed it as a sign. A vast, ancient mansion in a secluded countryside offered not just a new beginning, but a sanctuary where her music could finally flourish. The mansion, shrouded in a gauze of mystery and whispers of the past, welcomed her with open arms and silent corridors. Eleanor's fascination grew as she explored its nooks and crannies, feeling an inexplicable bond with the place. It was in the attic, amid the relics of forgotten lives, that she discovered a hidden violin case. Covered in dust, it lay beneath a loose floorboard, seemingly waiting for her. The case was unremarkable at first glance, but an inscription etched into its surface sent a shiver down her spine. Within lies not just an instrument, but a legacy. Heed its call and unearth untold secrets. Driven by an irresistible curiosity, Eleanor opened the case. Inside, cradled in faded velvet, rested a violin. Its wood glowed with an inner warmth, untouched by time. Despite the inscription's warning, Eleanor was captivated. The violin seemed to beckon her, promising the fulfillment of her deepest desires. In that moment, she made a decision that would alter the course of her life. The mansion's music room, once silent, hummed with anticipation as Eleanor prepared to play the violin for the first time. Her bow caressed the strings, and a melody filled the air, haunting, beautiful, and unlike anything she had ever played. As the last note faded, the air thickened and a spectral figure materialized before her. A man, dressed in garb from ages past, his eyes filled with an immeasurable sorrow and longing. Eleanor, though frightened, felt a strange kinship with the spirit. He spoke in a voice that resonated both in the room and within her soul. Complete the piece I could not, and the gift of unparalleled mastery shall be yours. The offer was tempting, a siren's call to her ambitious heart. In the weeks that followed, Eleanor's life transformed. She accepted an invitation to perform at the local concert hall, a modest venue that nevertheless represented a step forward in her career. The difference in her playing was undeniable. Each note pulsed with an emotive power that captivated the audience. Whispers of her talent spread like wildfire, drawing attention and acclaim she had longed for her entire life. Yet amidst the applause and congratulations, Eleanor felt an undercurrent of unease. The spirit's visitation and the violin's unnatural influence weighed heavily on her, a secret she kept closely guarded. But secrets have a way of demanding attention, and as Eleanor would soon discover, some debts incurred in the pursuit of ambition bear a cost far greater than she could have imagined. The newfound attention Eleanor received post the concert was both exhilarating and sobering. For every moment she basked in the adulation of her audience, there were quiet, introspective pauses where the spectral figure's ominous presence clouded her thoughts. It was during these times she began to notice changes within herself, subtle, yet unmistakably alien. Colors seemed less vibrant, laughter a distant echo, as if her ability to feel was diminishing, distilled into the sole pursuit of musical perfection. It was Mr. Hawthorne, the mansion's faithful caretaker, who first voiced concern. A fixture of the estate for as long as anyone could remember, his observant eyes missed little. "Miss Eleanor," he began, his voice betraying a fatherly concern, "you've changed, not just in your artistry, which no doubt has captivated us all. It's as if part of you is elsewhere." Eleanor dismissed his worries, attributing the changes to the stress of her demanding schedule. Yet his words planted seeds of doubt, compelling her to seek the comfort of her old friend Esther, a local historian with a penchant for the occult. Esther listened intently as Eleanor recounted her experiences. Her academic curiosity piqued. Together, they delved into the mansion's history, unearthing tales of a virtuoso violinist who once inhabited the estate, his meteoric rise to fame cut short by a tragic obsession with a piece of music he could never complete. The parallels to Eleanor's own experience were stark, leaving her both terrified and captivated. That night, as a storm raged outside, Eleanor's dreams were invaded by vivid, disturbing visions. She saw the violinist, his life a mirror of unyielding ambition and eventual madness. The visions were a bridge across time, connecting her with the spirit's torment, his desperate quest for perfection that ultimately led to his downfall. Awakening in a cold sweat, Eleanor knew then the true nature of the gift she had embraced. The violin's curse was twofold. It offered unmatched skill at the cost of the musician's very essence, their ability to feel and connect with the world around them. The realization was a turning point, a moment of clarity amidst the maelstrom of ambition and supernatural influence. She understood that to continue down this path was to risk losing herself entirely, becoming a shadow bound to the spirit's unending lament. The haunting visions and Mr. Hawthorne's observations served as a catalyst for Eleanor's resolve to confront the truth of her situation. It was a truth wrapped in the notes of a melody, both beautiful and cursed. A tune that had seduced her with the promise of recognition, but now threatened to consume her very soul. In the solitude of the music room, under the pale moonlight streaming through the stained glass windows, Eleanor stood resolved to confront the spectral figure that had haunted her since the violin's discovery. As the clock struck midnight, the air grew thick, and a chilling silence enveloped the room. Then he appeared, the ghostly violinist, his presence more imposing than ever. "I demand to know," Eleanor's voice trembled with a mixture of fear and defiance, "the truth behind this curse and how to end it." The spirit looked upon Eleanor with eyes that held centuries of sorrow. "The curse," he began, his voice a hollow echo, "is born of insatiable ambition. My obsession led to my downfall, and now it binds me to this world. The only release is through a piece played with genuine, selfless love, a melody that I could never compose." Armed with this knowledge, Eleanor sought the help of Mr. Hawthorne and Esther. Together, they scoured the mansion's library, unearthing ancient texts and forgotten manuscripts. They discovered the violin's origins, crafted not merely as an instrument, but as a vessel, intended to capture the soul of its player through the completion of a perfect, yet cursed composition. Drawing from the depths of her fading humanity, Eleanor penned a composition unlike any she had ever written. It was not a piece crafted for acclaim or success, but a melody imbued with the raw, unfiltered essence of her experiences, the joy, the sorrow, and the love she had for the music that had defined her life. As the full moon watched silently, Eleanor took her place in the mansion's grounds, the very heart of the estate, where the veil between the earthly and the ethereal felt thinnest. Mr. Hawthorne and Esther stood by, their presence a testament to the bonds formed in the face of darkness. With a deep, steadying breath, Eleanor raised her bow, and the first note of her sacrificial melody pierced the night. The music that flowed was both haunting and beautiful, filled with the pain of loss and the hope for redemption. With each note, the spectral violinist seemed to absorb the melody, his sorrowful countenance softening, his bond to the earthly realm weakening. As the final note lingered in the air, a blinding light engulfed the spirit, liberating him from his eternal torment. The cursed violin, unable to contain the purity of Eleanor's sacrifice, shattered, its remnants fading into the night. Exhausted, Eleanor collapsed, her last conscious thought a prayer that her actions were enough. When she awoke, the dawn's light revealed a world vivid with color, its beauty untouched by the shadows of the past. The violin was no more, and with it, the prodigious skill it had granted her. Yet in its place remained a melody, her melody, a haunting remembrance of her journey and the spirit's release. Though her encounter with the supernatural had left her marked, Eleanor found solace in her music, now a reflection of her true self, free from ambition's curse. The mansion, no longer a sanctuary of solitude, became a home filled with laughter and music, shared with Mr. Hawthorne and Esther, her unwavering supporters through the darkest of times. And so Eleanor's tale, woven with notes of despair, courage, and love, resounded as a testament to the power of selfless sacrifice, a melody forever etched in the echoes of the mansion.